So this all started when I was looking at this thread, which is about a recent automation hour that Rakesh and Jennifer Lee put together, David Litton, and there was a very cool session there. And then someone asked, "What about attaching a random number?" And then uh, someone mentioned this really over the top impressive play blackjack with a lightning flow Dreamforce session. So I asked these guys, I asked these just crazy guys who did this to who are right here, by the way, to write a blog. So they wrote a guest blog post. So we actually have a guest blog post now um, on my blog of all of the amazing things they did, and they also wanted a random number, and they they noted that there is no random number flow action that just gives you a random number. So then they came up with this. The formula was pretty simple, and this is one of my favorite paragraphs from their blog post. The formula was pretty simple. Multiply 1,000 plus the time the user was created in hundredths of a second by the card prime number and then by a second 5-digit prime number. This gives you a number of between 12 and 14 digits. We then take the right-hand 7 digits, which is our first unpredictable number. Now, in fairness, I want to point out this emphasis is added by the editor, me, in other words, because every time I look at this, I laugh out loud. So what this left me thinking was, it shouldn't be this hard to get a random number for your flow, especially because in Apex, right over the wall, it's really, really simple. So, after about 30 seconds of hunting around on the web, I sort of settled upon this blog post where this Salesforce Ohana member, who I haven't met, here he is, Sunil Kumar, basically posted a year and a half ago about how to use Apex to generate a random number if you pass in a start and end number. So what I want to do is I want to create a flow action so that someone using flow, like Luke and Duke, that's these guys over here, and like the people in this thread over here, they can just drag this into their flow and give it a start number and an end number and get this useful range, and so that all of those people don't have to worry about this random code. So let's do that right now. So I am going to go and to my main demo org, and let's do that over here. And I'm going to be using the standard mechanism and the standard design pattern that you use to take any chunk of Apex and turn it into a flow action. The name of the mechanism is called invocable actions, but you don't really have to know anything about that. So let's see. Let's create a brand new flow. And I'm also going to open up Developer Console. And I'm going to basically go to an existing invocable action. And I am going to sort of clone it to give me the pattern that I want to use. So I am going to open, I think I'll use get franchisee data. That's a demo invocable action I use. All right. So what you've got here, basically what I'm going to do here is I am going to, let's save this as something else. Well, actually we can't do that really. So in our delightful developer console. So let's just copy it, create a new Apex class. We're going to call this get random number. And we're going to paste this in. We're going to change this back to get random number. And we're going to give it get a random number from range. So I'm going to paste some new stuff in there. Let's take a look. Before I paste that stuff in, though, here are these two classes are used to pass inputs into a flow action and get outputs out of a flow action. So we know exactly what we basically have start number, and let's make that an integer. And we have end number. And so these are going to get passed in. And by doing it this way, by adding this @ invocable variable, this tells Flow to make these show up when we drag it from our list of actions. It's not going to be a local action, it's not going to be a quick action, it's going to be an apex action. So we're going to drag it out just like this, and then the stuff what's going to show up in this list is start number and end number. And then the return value we want to return is we're going to return random number. Okay, so I can do this between, let me think about this. If I do this between 0 and 1, which is often desirable, the number I get will not be an integer. So, so basically that's a double or a long in Apex, which is pretty programmery. Let's try returning it as a double. So what we're going to do is let's basically create a result, and so we're going to say a results cur result equals new result. So that new results. So that creates a new one of these classes. So it's basically a container for random numbers. So now let's set cur result dot random number to equal to 4455. Okay, so now we've packed a little results class with this random number, which may seem like overkill, but the nice thing about doing it via a class is that we can stuff a lot of stuff in here. We could put 10 different variables into this results class, and we would still be able to feed it back to Flow. So that's why this pattern works really well. Okay, so I've got this random number. For the moment, it's not random. It's this, we're just going to test out the interface. But we have 44.55. We take that random number into this thing called cur result. We take cur result, we put it into results list, and then we hand results list back. Okay, so we're basically not using the inputs at all in this first test, but that's okay. We'll make a little note. Use inputs and access random number function. Okay, so I'm going to save this, get random number, and now I'm going to go back to my flow. Okay, so now let's go look in the Apex section, and we should find our get random number. So here it is. And you can see that here are the start number and end number, and then in outputs here's the random number that's going to be generated. So that's, you can see how simple it is to get some Apex code to show up in Flow. So we don't really care right now, but and frankly, because I didn't set them as required, I don't think it would even matter. But put them like there, and then let's put the random number. We need a variable. So let's call this cur random number, and we expect this to be a number type. So we will do that. And now let's figure out, you know what, actually I'm still following old habits, which is to pull a screen out to print out those random numbers. But you know, with the debugger, you really don't have to do that. So let me show you that. So random number test, and let's save this. Oh, need a start item. Try again. Okay, and then hit debugger. So if I got it right on the first try, then the debugger will show the return value of 4455. And there it is. So that worked out just fine. So we are getting this back from the apex. Okay, so now part 2, let's actually implement some randomness to this. So let me go back to Mr. Kumar's class and copy it. And let's go back here and let's add it as a separate function. And we're returning a double. And this we'll call this generate random from range. And we're going to have a start num. Capitalize that. And end num. Okay, and let's paste in his code. Let's see. Oh, could have used his stuff. You can see. All right, so let's try saving that. But you know what? It's probably going to give me an error because I have an extra one of these. Okay, let's try that again. All right. Okay, so far so good. So the last thing I need to do is wire this all up. So we're going to say, instead of setting this to 44.55, we're going to set it to the return value of this random function we've just added. And all I have to do here, because remember, this is, okay, so we've got a list of requests. So again, this is set up so that it can handle bulk operations and collections. So it was passed in as a list. We know, however, that we only are expecting one of these. So to make the types line up, what we're going to have to do is say that from requests, we actually need to take the first entry in the array and then start number. And likewise, we're going to take the first entry in the array and take the end number. All right, let's see if we got that syntax right. So far, so good. Okay, so we let's test it out. We got a new piece of Apex here, and we go back to the flow. Now, let me just go and hit the debug again. And I get a 6, I get a 5, I get a 7, I get a 6, 6, 6, 5, 6, 7, 5, 6, 5, 7. So this is working. Now let's try changing the inputs. Let's try 0 and 1. All right, and I'm getting 0, I'm getting 0, I'm getting 1. So I'm not getting the behavior I wanted there. Okay, what I think I'm going to do to deal with that, I know that if I simply call math.random, I get a double that's between 0 and 1. So rather than do surgery on this range, I think I'm basically going to say that if start num equals 0 and end num equals 1, then return math.random. Okay, and that will just circumvent all. This is not a particularly elegant way to do this. This should probably be in a different function. The test should probably be outside, but the goal here is not to go crazy on code. The goal here is to build some cool flow actions. So now I'm getting nice 0 to 1. I'm getting nice values between 0 and 1. And then if I change this, make sure I didn't break the other stuff. If this is 33 and this is 555. And it's looking good. And you can see how much faster the debugger is, by the way. So if you're not using the debugger, give it a try. This is really great. And being able to see in these parentheses the output value for everything is just fantastic. Okay, so we're done. We have a random function. Now what we need to do is distribute this random function. So I want to publish it. I want to publish it on unofficial flow. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually record the packaging process. This is not going to be interesting to everyone, so feel free to stop watching just about here, except that know that you can go to unofficial flow and find this action, install it into your org, and use it in your flows. So let's see. Packaging. To package a flow action or a flow screen component, you don't actually need much. If you're not trying to get into AppExchange. AppExchange requires more. That's out of the scope of this video. But if you just want to make it possible for people to one-click install your flow action or your flow screen component into their sandboxes and their dev editions, and if they're comfortable into their production, you need to create an unmanaged package. To create an unmanaged package, we need a dev edition. Dev editions are free. If you search for Salesforce Developer Edition, you will see basically Developer Edition, Salesforce Developers. You can sign up for this, and within a few minutes you will have a Developer Edition that you can have a lot of fun with and use a lot of features. There's a lot of stuff that just works on Developer Edition for like the single system administrator account, stuff like that. So I'm going to use a Developer Edition that I have set up, an org that I call Flow Host, and I have set this up to publish components. So I'm going to go here. Okay, so what do I need to do? I need to get this action into this Flow Host developer org so I can create a package over here. Now once I do that, and I'll have a link that I can give to anyone, and it'll essentially, this little dev org called Flow Host goes into the business of being available 7/24 to anyone who wants to install this package. And normally the way I do this is I use SFDX and I add it to the Git repository first, and I push the source code, but we'll call that out of scope for this video. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply, things are a little easy because I only have this one code file, so I'm going to just manually brute force this over to here, and let's call it the same thing, get random number. Okay, so same class, test should save without problem. Okay, so now let's create a package. So I'm going to go to Package Manager. And so I've set this up with a namespace, flow components, and I actually do have the ability to create managed package, but for a variety of reasons, that's not what we're going to do today. So let's create this. So let's call this get random number, and let's save that. Okay, and now we're going to start adding things to this empty package. And all we need to add is we go to Apex class and find this get random number. It's right there. Add it to package. And I'm going to click upload. This is about as simple as packaging ever gets. So I'm going to say this is v1.0. I'm going to click upload. And we get an error message. Look at that. No test methods found in the Apex code included in the package. At least 75% test coverage is required. So, most metadata you can package without this, but Apex code requires test coverage. So we better create a test. I'm going to sort of jump ahead and show you the completed tests that I came up with. So I created an Apex class and I marked it with isTest, and I ended up writing 3 tests. Number returned is in range, number 0 to 1 generated is in range, and number above 1 generated is in range. Because my getRandomNumber function here, you'll notice that it has 2 return statements. So I needed 2 tests. Because if I just test this, then it won't test all of these lines, and I won't get the coverage that I needed. So these tests were added to the package. And with those tests, I was able to come and add them to my package. So I added in the Apex class to the package, and when I uploaded it, I was able to successfully create the package, upload it, and get a link here. And this link can be provided to anybody who wants it, on any org who wants to install your package. And it also is the start of the process for publishing stuff to AppExchange, as is said right here. So that gives you a sense of all of the steps involved in creating a flow action out of some useful Apex code.